It's Tuesday morning. You check your phone, and there's another charge, another subscription you forgot about. Your chest gets tight, that familiar knot in your stomach that you've gotten so used to that you almost don't notice it anymore. And you're making decent money, right? You should be fine. But somehow, you're constantly in crisis mode, playing this exhausting financial catch-up game where the goalposts keep moving and you never quite catch your breath. My name is Synth, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, not in a spreadsheet kind of way, but in a why do people feel the way they do about money kind of way. I've spent years looking at how people make financial decisions, why some people seem genuinely relaxed about their bank balance, while others are caught in this loop of anxiety and shame and avoidance. Here's what I've figured out. You feel anxious about money, so you avoid looking at it. You avoid opening your banking app. You avoid having that conversation. But avoidance makes it worse. The anxiety grows in the darkness. Your brain fills in the gaps with worst-case scenarios. You lie awake at night worrying, and because you're avoiding, you're not making any moves to improve things, so nothing changes, and the anxiety just compounds. It's a loop, a vicious one, and the reason so few people break out of it, it's not because the information isn't there. It's not because the solution is complicated. It's because nobody talks about the psychological side, the shame, the stories we tell ourselves, the way our nervous system gets hijacked every time we think about checking our balance. In this video, I'm going to show you how this loop actually works, and more importantly, the specific shifts that make it possible to break free, not overnight, but genuinely in a way that might actually feel peaceful. Let me break down what's actually happening when you're caught in money anxiety. A trigger arrives, a bill, a notification, someone mentioning money. Your brain perceives a threat, not a real one, but a survival threat, because at some deep evolutionary level, not having money meant not surviving. So your nervous system kicks into protection mode. Your cortisol spikes. You go into financial fight or flight. But here's the problem. Your nervous system can't actually resolve this threat. You can't fight the money. You can't run from it. So what do? You freeze. You avoid. You stop looking at your emails. You make a note to deal with it later. This feels good in the moment. Relief. I don't have to think about this right now. But here's what's happening underneath. Every time you avoid, you're telling your nervous system, hey, this is actually dangerous. We were right to be scared. You're reinforcing the fear, hardwiring the anxiety deeper into your system. And now your brain treats all financial information like a threat, even neutral information, even good information. I remember someone named Sarah who was making decent money but couldn't bring herself to check her bank app for weeks at a time. Her hands would literally shake when she thought about opening it. And you know what happened? She missed 2 bill payment deadlines, got late fees. Suddenly, she had a legitimate reason to be anxious. The loop tightened. This is the pattern. Anxiety leads to avoidance. Avoidance leads to worse outcomes. Worse outcomes lead to more anxiety. It's a cycle. And unless you interrupt it, unless you change your relationship with financial information, you stay stuck. That's the key insight. It's not about earning more or cutting expenses. It's about fundamentally changing how you engage with money information.
There's another layer here that I think is really important. Shame. And I think shame might actually be the real driver behind money anxiety. You're not just anxious about money, you're anxious about what it says about you. If you don't have enough savings, that means you're irresponsible. Living paycheck to paycheck means you've failed. Not understanding investing means you're stupid. These messages come from everywhere. Your family, society, social media, the internet, telling you that you should already have 6 figures saved. So you're not just feeling anxious, you're also feeling profoundly ashamed. And shame is paralyzing. Shame makes you want to disappear. It makes you want to hide. It makes you want to pretend everything is fine while you're internally drowning. This shame also makes it hard to ask for help, because asking would mean admitting you don't know something. So you stay isolated with your fear, and that isolation makes the fear grow bigger. There's this phrase, shame thrives in silence, and that's exactly what's happening. You're silent about your struggles because you're ashamed. That silence isolates you, and isolation makes the shame grow more. Breaking this requires getting honest. First with yourself. What exactly are you ashamed of? Where did that belief come from? Is it actually true? And then, when you're ready, it's about telling one other person, a therapist, a friend, a partner. Because the moment you say it out loud and they don't recoil, the moment they just nod and say, "Yeah, me too," the shame loses some of its power. It loses its grip. Here's what usually happens when someone decides to break the loop. They get inspired, they're ready to change, so they download a budgeting app, set up a spreadsheet, commit to tracking every penny. They're going to optimize everything. And for about 2 weeks they do it. Then it feels like too much, too restrictive, too boring, and they abandon it. Then the old anxiety comes back, and they think, "I guess I just can't do this financial responsibility thing." But that's not what happened. What happened is they went from zero structure to maximum complexity, and that doesn't work for any human with actual feelings and a real life. What actually works is stupidly simple. You need one small thing that interrupts the avoidance pattern. That's it. For some people, it's a 5-minute weekly check-in. Every Sunday, you look at your bank balance. That's the whole system. 5 minutes, once a week. You don't have to do anything about what you see. You just look. But by looking, you're doing something radical. You're telling your nervous system that financial information is safe, that looking at it doesn't kill you, that the world doesn't end. After a few weeks of this small repetition, something shifts. The anxiety starts to diminish because your brain is getting evidence that the threat isn't actually as big as you thought. Other people set up one automatic transfer to savings, $50 twice a month. Automatic, so it's not a choice. It doesn't require willpower or discipline. And then they forget about it. 2 years later, they look and there's $5,000 sitting there that they didn't consciously miss. The magic isn't in complexity. The magic is in consistency. The magic is in doing something so small and so regular that it becomes boring. Because when something is boring, it stops being scary.
This is the one that honestly changed things for me personally. And it's really simple. You have to stop thinking of money as something you earn and start thinking of it as something you manage. Because when money is about earning, everything becomes about not being enough. You're always comparing yourself to people who earn more. You're always worried you should be making more. You can never earn your way out of anxiety because there's always someone earning more, so you stay stuck. But when you reframe it as management, it becomes a completely different game. The question isn't, am I earning enough? The question becomes, am I directing the money I do have in a way that feels aligned with my values? And suddenly, you don't have to earn $100,000 a year to feel secure. You just have to know where your money is going. That's so much more achievable. That's actually within your control. I know someone named Jamie who was making about $50,000 a year, stressed all the time, comparing themselves to people making double. But then they did this exercise where they actually mapped out where their money was going. They noticed they were spending on things that didn't matter to them, subscriptions they weren't using, eating out because they were too tired to cook, impulse purchases for comfort. So they redirected about $150 a month, canceled subscriptions, meal planned on Sundays, and suddenly they had more breathing room at the end of the month than they'd had in years, not because they earned more, but because they managed what they had. And here's what's really cool. When you manage consciously, you also make different earning decisions. You don't feel desperate. You're not taking the first job offer because you need money right now. You can actually be strategic. You can ask for raises. You can take risks that might increase income because you're not operating from scarcity anymore.
Once you start breaking the loop, something else happens. Your identity starts to shift. You're no longer someone who's bad with money. You're someone who checks their balance every Sunday. That's different. One is about essence, one is about behavior. And this matters so much because our identities are incredibly powerful. They shape our decisions, usually outside of conscious awareness. If your identity is someone who's bad with money, then every financial decision you make, you're going to unconsciously sabotage it. You'll find reasons not to save. You'll feel like you don't deserve financial peace. You'll prove yourself right. But if you start small and actually follow through, if you do that 5-minute check-in without fail, or you put that $50 in savings every single time, then gradually your identity shifts. You have evidence now. You're not someone who's bad with money. You're someone who shows up. You're someone who's building something slowly. This is huge because once your identity shifts, the behavior becomes natural. You don't have to white-knuckle it your way through financial responsibility anymore. It just becomes part of who you are. I think about it like compound interest for personal change. You make these tiny decisions so small that they almost don't feel like they matter, but they compound. Over weeks and months, they compound. And one day, you realize you're a completely different person financially. You're calm. You're not lying awake at night. And it didn't even feel hard because you were just doing one small thing again and again.
So here's everything boiled down into one thing you can actually remember when you're feeling that familiar tightness in your chest. The money anxiety loop breaks when you change from avoiding financial information to gently, consistently engaging with it. That's it. That's the whole thing. You don't need to become a financial genius. You don't need to earn more money. You don't need the perfect budget or the perfect plan. You just need to get to a place where you can look at your finances without feeling like you're going to die. And you do that by starting so small that it almost seems silly, but you do it with commitment. You show up again and again. Your nervous system learns, your brain rewires, and the anxiety, which felt like this permanent part of you, it starts to loosen its grip. I want to come back to where we started because I think it matters. That feeling you get when you wake up, that tightness in your chest, that's real. That's not weakness. That's not a personal flaw. That's your nervous system doing exactly what it evolved to do, protect you from perceived threats. The fact that your body is trying to protect you is actually kind of beautiful, but it's also gotten stuck. And because your actual financial situation today probably isn't a survival threat, your nervous system is overreacting. It's like having a smoke detector that goes off every time you cook. It's doing its job, but it's not helping anymore. It's just stressing you out. The good news is that your nervous system is trainable. You can teach it that financial information is safe. You can teach it that looking at your bank balance won't destroy you. You can teach it that you're actually pretty capable of handling your own money, and you teach it through repetition, through gentle, boring, consistent exposure. And here's what I really want you to know. This isn't about becoming wealthy or hitting some financial milestone. This is about freedom. This is about being able to think about something other than money for 5 minutes. This is about being able to go to bed without running catastrophe scenarios through your head. This is about being able to receive good news, a bonus, a gift, an opportunity, without immediately feeling guilty or scared. That freedom is available to you right now, not in 5 years, right now, today, as soon as you decide to look at what's actually true instead of what you're afraid of. I'm not going to tell you this is easy because breaking any pattern is uncomfortable, but I will tell you it's worth it, and I promise you you're not as bad with money as you think you are. You're just scared, and scared people make scared decisions, but you can change that. Start small this week. Pick one thing. Check your balance. Have one conversation. Write down one place your money goes. Make it so small that it feels almost like cheating. And then do it again next week. That's how you break the loop. One small, boring decision at a time.